What they're going to need.
Someone's getting warm. He scored the last 7 for Michigan.
It was not enough as Michigan loses it by 5 in Madison, a final of 64-59. Welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews Michigan Basketball Postgame Live. We're here after every Michigan game talking about the Wolverines, and Buffkin with a good game, ended up with 21 points. But this was the same old song and dance. If you've watched Michigan basketball all year long, they don't execute well late in games, poor execution. And in this one, you can chalk it up to missed free throws and bad shots and turnovers late. And, Michigan, you got to do better than that if you want to win on the road, even against a team like Wisconsin. So not all that good for Michigan. They can point to a number of games this year you can kind of run down. And if you're looking on the bright side is you got some young players that can learn some things that they can use in the future. The negative part is that Michigan did not have much of a chance to get into the tournament, which is the goal. They needed to get a win like this, and now, the chances are even further away. And, barring some kind of run in Chicago, which can happen, this team's going to be on the outside looking in when everybody's dancing in March. And, that's going to be disappointing for a lot of people. But the story of this game, in addition to Michigan not being able to execute late, was Wisconsin hitting the offensive glass. And it's not something that if we were sitting around talking about the game beforehand and you were looking at the numbers, that somebody would have pulled out and put as a key to the game. Robbie Hummel, and thanks to ESPN for the audio at the beginning, pointed out, he was the color analyst on tonight's game. He pointed out a couple times that Wisconsin ranked 349 in offensive rebounding in the country. I didn't even know there were that many teams. So they're near the bottom in offensive rebounding, and yet that was the story of the game for Wisconsin. Not every time, but a bunch of times when they were there, they were able to, hustle after the ball and get offensive rebounds. You've got to hit free throws. You got to be able to execute late in games if, you want to be a good team and you want to win on the road. And Michigan has not been able to do that this year. And so it's frustrating. And that's just where it's at. I think you hope in the remaining games, maybe they can show some things late in some games, something to build on for next season. If you want, again, to take a glass half full, you say you want to have some build on some things late in the season that will take you into Chicago, and you fight your tail off there to see if you can make a run to Sunday. Obviously, try to get the automatic bid because it's never over, ever, until the postseason tournament in college basketball. We've seen teams make runs all the way through and be able to not only get into the tournament, then actually, advance in the big tournament. So, it's however you want to look at it. I look at it as a reality. And, it's not like, you hope Michigan drops the rest of their games or, bows out early in the Big Ten tournament. It's just the way you get to this point in the season with only a handful of games left, and you are who you are. And Michigan's not a good team executing down the stretch, and that's what you got to do if you want to be a good team. And so they're not a good team, and that's just the bottom line with it. We'll look at the numbers. We'll look at the schedule coming up. You want to get any thoughts in, you can. As always, if you want to put some feedback up or if you want to jump in, if you're somebody out there that wants to call in, raise your hand. You can jump in and talk about it. Kobe Buffkin, you might say Kobe Buffkin was rolling in this game with 5 minutes to go, and then he did not get many opportunities late in the game. I would say that I think you have a point there. He did, with around 3 minutes to go, miss a layup, and then, Cheddar missed the follow. But other than that, I don't even know how many times he touched the ball. So I think that would be something if we were jotting down, hey, what are some of the points here that Michigan can work on when you're talking about trying to execute down the stretch? One of them is getting the ball to the players that have the hot hand. Certainly, you wanted to get some post touches and get the ball to Hunter Dickinson. You always want to do that, but the guy that had brought them back was Buffkin, and he didn't get the opportunities, as many opportunities as you want. I would put that to your freshman point guard, and this is one of these things like, all right, he's going to have this experience on the road. You got a point guard, a savvy, experienced point guard, and they're making free throws. They're running the team. They're getting the ball to the players that you want the ball to go to, like Buffkin, like Dickinson. And, McDaniel split a pair of free throws to make this a 1-point game with 4 minutes to go. But Wisconsin misses a shot, and Michigan has an opportunity to come back. And, McDaniel has the ball, and he inexplicably just, sprints down the court and doesn't pass to anybody and misses this wild shot. I mean, it was as bad of a shot that you're going to, that you want to, that you could imagine when you're talking about your point guard and, it's a 1-point game and you got a chance to take the lead when you were down the entire second half. Bad deal there. And then, from there, Michigan still had some chances, but they didn't step up and make free throws. Dickinson then, split a pair. Cheddar missed 2 late. You got to do better than that from the charity stripe. Again, you want to be a good team. You want to win late. You got to make your foul shots. I mean, some of the things are, kind of elementary in basketball. Don't have careless turnovers. Block out. Don't let the other team get offensive rebounds. Make your free throws. Michigan wasn't able to do any of those things in this one, as they'll look at the last 4 minutes of this game and they'll be kicking themselves about all of those things. And yeah, I mean, you're a fan, you can complain about the refs and they were lost in a few things. Sure. It's almost like you see that every game. I don't know if you should expect it. You half expect that Big Ten refs, especially on the road, are going to blow it, a bunch of things, but that's not in the top 5 things of why Michigan lost this game. The officials, it was bad execution, not being able to knock down free throws, not being able to check out, and letting Wisconsin get too many offensive rebounds. That's why Michigan lost this game. So 21 for Buffkin, 12 for Dickinson. Jet Howard with 9 points. Doug McDaniel, 7 points, 3 boards, 2 assists. You want more than that from your point guard. Will Cheddar got his first start. Terrence Williams the second with what they call it, a knee bruise. Cheddar, there's things to like about Will Cheddar in the future. 4 points, 5 boards for the redshirt freshman. Terrace Reed, he had a nice game. 6 points, 7 boards, and he drained both of his free throws, which was nice to see in this one. I make some notes during the game, and there was Reed out there, that over the last few games has been able to walk up to the charity stripe and knock some free throws down, which is really good for him because it was really bad for him for a long time. Michigan in this game came in as a 1.5 underdog. It was a 1-point game at the half. Michigan led. Wisconsin led by as many as 7 in the first half. Hunter Dickinson, who wore a ski mask heading into the game. A lot of people on social media wondering about the timing of Dickinson wearing the ski mask. And, he's a villain. He called, what did he call the Kohl Center crowd? Scumbags, a month or so ago. So, he was playing it up, egging them on, doing all that. To me, look, you win and you can have some fun there. When you're losing and you do that kind of stuff, you look at it and, you might roll your eyes a little bit, but so that's where I'm at with it. You win, that kind of stuff is fun. When you lose, not so much fun. Also, Jet Howard last year. We know what happened at the Kohl Center. Jet Jawan's son was wearing a Free Jawan T-shirt. Trying to, I don't know, poke some fun at the suspension last year and returning to the scene of the crime. I don't know. I didn't think it was all that big of a deal, but again, you don't have a good record and you had a disappointing season. It's not like everybody's feeling really good about it, the head coach. So, you're going to get some criticism for that. And he did. I don't have much criticism for him, except that they lost the game. Dickinson had 9 at the half. Michigan was shooting well, shot 50% from the field, including 50% from downtown in the first half, 4 of 8. And then in the second half, the first thing that I wrote down, Badgers on the offensive glass. And that was true early in this game, early in the second half, in the middle of the second half, and then late in this game. Offensive rebounds again. I'll put that as the number one story of the game for Wisconsin, who hits the glass. Remember, 349th in basketball. And they go out there. Michigan gives up 14 offensive rebounds to Whiskey. They get out rebounded in this one. Actually, it was dead even 37, but that's where the offensive glass really helped out Wisconsin, who was up by a dozen about midway through this game. Buffkin cut it to 6 with a little over 7 to play. Reed, I mentioned those free throws, the 2 that he hit. He got it down to 4 with 6.5, and it was a 2-point game with 4.5 to go. And then, Michigan cut it to 1 point with Doug McDaniel splitting a pair of free throws. But then after that, McDaniel, a wild fast break that he missed. Buffkin missed a layup. Cheddar missed a follow. Hunter Dickinson was fouled. He split a pair to make it a 2-point game with under 2 minutes to go. But then Hunter Dickinson makes a nice pass in a 2-point game to Will Cheddar, who walks up to the free throw line and bricks them both. And then after that, a missed shot, but an offensive rebound by Wisconsin. Jet scored, but the Badgers made their free throws late. Michigan was not able to do it. Tail of the tape, ball game. Michigan loses this one, and now their record sits at 14-12 and 8-7 in the conference. If you were watching this game, they pointed out that Joe Lenardi gave Michigan just a 3% chance right now at making the NCAA tournament. Some of the feedback in here, Trepa says the refs, they must have been drinking whiskey tonight. Yeah, they weren't good. They were down the list and why Michigan lost the game. But, this is not a tape that any of them are going to send if they wanted to, I don't know, go somewhere else and be an official. This is not one. Say, hey, check out my tape and the whistle that I had on Valentine's Day at the Kohl Center against Michigan. You'd look at that and say, okay, yeah. Big Meek says, WTF, we do not rebound like a Big Ten team. Rebounding in practice should be taken more seriously. I agree. Did I read it right? Michigan, 37 team rebounds. Wisconsin with 37. So, watching it, the offensive rebounds stood out like a sore thumb in this game. It was, to me, the number one reason. So I'm with everybody, even though you look at the box score and sometimes it doesn't tell the story. You watch this game. Wisconsin beat Michigan tonight on the offensive glass, and they beat them by making free throws late in this game, Michigan missing their free throws. Some of that easy stuff. Eric making a point about the rebounding. He is fed up with TW2, but wonder if him not playing tonight played a big role in the defensive miscues and terrible rebounding. Yeah, well, TW2 can help out. He is good defensively, especially on opponents' bigs, and he definitely, is a bigger body to get on the glass, and that could be part of it. But you got to find your man. A lot of offensive rebounding. It's rebounding in general is effort. Now, look, you got a bunch of undersized guys, and including Doug McDaniel. and you have a bigger team. That wasn't the case tonight. Michigan, they could match up. So when it gets to be a point where it's not a mismatch size-wise, I'm going to come down and tell people that playing defense and rebounding is largely an effort thing. And offensive rebounds, that's an effort thing from Wisconsin where you give them a thumbs up and then you give Michigan a thumbs down for not finding their guy. Some of these things, like, you can sit around listening to people that have played college basketball or whatever, have spent their life in coaching and everything else. These are very simple things. And this is what happened tonight for Michigan. They got beat by a team that wanted the ball more and had more effort. Now, you get that when you're at home and the Wisconsin crowd was behind them, but you got to match that effort. And that cost Michigan a game tonight. I mean, what do you want me to say about them missing free throws? Walk up there, you got to make them. I can complain about it. I know they practice free throws, but you got to make your free throws. And they weren't able to do it. And the other thing, I think it's in their head now, late in games, because they all talk about, we're in games, but then we just don't execute late. Well, that's been it all year long. They get down to crunch time. I don't know if they don't have. They've got Hunter Dickinson, like, is their go-to guy. That's they want to just throw it to down on the block. They don't have great flow. And, teams can deny him. So it's going to be tough to get the number one player of the ball. But then after that, they couldn't get it to Kobe. He should have been more involved late in that game. Again, that's, you don't have to be a genius in basketball to know that. And they weren't able to do that. They've got too many guys then, okay, let's get it to Jet. Let's get it to Kobe. Let's try somebody else. And they just don't have enough things to run, and they don't have, enough plays to single somebody out if they want to get him the ball, or they haven't been able to. And McDaniel, again, he's a young guy, so you're going to give him a break, but him sprinting down the court and just throwing up this wild shot, that cost Michigan the game. It was the biggest point in the game. There's 3.5 to go. Michigan's down a point. Doug McDaniel sprints down the court, it was like he lost his balance and just threw it up and it hit under the glass. Terrible. I mean, he wants to sprint it down and be a one-man fast break and gets down there. If you're out in front of everybody and you're going up and getting a layup, somebody makes a great play and blocks it. I get it there. There was traffic. There was guys with him. They were running with him, and he threw that wild shot up. I mean, it's late in the season. If this was, one of the first couple of games, you'd say, oh, well, he's a freshman. He's going to learn from that. This is late in the year. You want to put the inexcusable tag on? Go ahead. Disappointing. I'll put the disappointing tag on it. That particular thing. We lost because of lack of effort, hustling towards the loose balls. I see it every game. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you there. TW2 got benched because of his lack of effort on the boards. Are you talking about before this game? Because he was hurt in this game. There's been a game or two where early, I don't think it was a rebounding, but it could have been an effort thing, hustling, where he got taken out like a couple seconds into the second half. And the one game, I don't remember exactly which one it was. It was in Big Ten play. Eric says, counting down the days of Beeline's return. Just hope OSU doesn't beat us to him. Yeah, I don't think that's happening for a number of reasons. One is that Michigan's not moving on from Juwan Howard. That's the big key. Like, if Juwan Howard decided that he was going to take some assistant coaching job in the NBA after this season and there was an opening, well, then you might have your chance there. Even though, I don't know, does John Beilein want to come back to college basketball? He's living in Ann Arbor. He's working down in Detroit. It'd be a really easy transition for sure. But he left, for the big money of the NBA, but also, that he was tired of the recruiting part where it was, the players were getting too big or for the game or whatever it was. But, they're not moving on. There's under 1% chance that that's going to happen. But so I know I'll talk about it. Like there you go. Effort on D. Will playoffs be better? I don't know. I mean, at this point, if you're, I don't know if it's not a lack of effort. It's just not, the Central game, the last day of 22, whether you want to say if they didn't give effort. Terry Mills was the analyst for that game, and he said it more than once. Michigan's just not giving the effort. That's not me, dogging the team or anything else. That's what their home analyst said. And, it was a terrible loss. Wisconsin energized by their home crowd, fighting and getting after Michigan. You got to, what are you going to say? There's lack of effort or not matching the intensity of your opponent. I mean, maybe we're just doing semantics or, trying to cushion things or whatever. I don't know. They don't execute well. They've late in games and they don't seem to match the intensity of the opponents. They're bricking free throws late in games, all of that adds up to, and you're in one direction. You're not going to make the tournament. So people are not happy with you to begin with. So that's it. That's about it. Hunter isn't as good as we believe. He looks for calls too much instead of playing hard. I mean, Hunter's like the least of their problems. Big Meek said he's tired of his antics. Just play ball. Yeah, there's certain guys, Hunter Dickinson's one, that they have to play with a little bit of an edge to them. You see guys like, Draymond Green has to play like that. Ron Artest had that type of game. In tennis, there was a left-hander back in the day, John McEnroe. He always had there's antics and there was, gestures and Hunter is he's in that line. He needs that kind of action, I think, to keep him engaged or to keep him at peak performance. And if it's going really well, you say, hey, man, that guy, it's entertaining. He's plays with an edge. You like that. But when you lose and when you lose and you come in with a ski mask talking about we're going to steal one and then you don't, you look a little goofy. So he looks a little goofy right now. And, when you call the opposing crowd scumbags, you look a little goofy on the way home with your ski mask. And Jet, was having some fun with his free Jawan shirt. But when you lose, you look a little goofy too. So that's it. That's all. When it comes down to it, we got a few other things to get to, like the upcoming schedule. Let's check that out. It is brought to you by the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball. You can hear that show on this feed that you are on right now. 1:00 weekdays. For that upcoming schedule, let's take a look. We have Michigan's next game is this Saturday at home against Michigan State. Michigan State's game today was canceled because of the tragedy in East Lansing. So this will be the Spartans' first game back on the court coming up Saturday night in Ann Arbor. After that, you just look, Michigan, they have just 5 games remaining. So they got State, and then it'll be out to Rutgers on a Thursday. They play this Wisconsin team on Sunday, February 26th, and they'll do it for the rest of this month. And then 2 roadies to end up the regular season at Illinois on March the 2nd and at Indiana, team that beat them on Saturday night by a point, in Assembly Hall to wrap things up before they head to Chicago the following, Wednesday? We don't know exactly, though, probably Wednesday, Thursday, Depends how they do in these games, whether they'll play, get a bye, double bye, ain't getting double bye. They have to play on Wednesday or Thursday. And then, that's going to be, their last chance to see if they'll be able to make a run, make a push, see if they can get into the tournament. That's it. All right. Well, what else can you say about this one here tonight? Michigan, they can look back to Saturday against Indiana. They had the late game drought. They can look to tonight. Another close game. You chalk it up. It's the easiest way to do it is the people are saying, well, they're not well coached in the final minutes. I think you can understand why people say that. They just have not been able to execute. And to zero it in a little bit more, they have a hard time getting the ball to the players that you would want to get the ball to. And it does, Dickinson does present some challenges because he's a big man and you can't just like run him up there, 25 feet, hand him the ball and get out of his way. You need to throw it down to the post to him. They haven't been creative enough. They were against Ohio State. If you think back, not this Sunday, but the Sunday before, they were moving them all over the floor. They had some flow with them. You really felt it. You didn't feel that in these last two games with Dickinson. They weren't creative enough being able to get him the ball in different spots. It was just like, hey, it's down on the left block. Let's see if we can throw it into him. One time in this game, they did feed it to him like in the middle or over on the right side, but, not enough. Not enough flow. You can feel it by just watching it. You want to credit Wisconsin? Sure. You're going to credit every team because they're going to be bumping them off and not allow them to just catch it down on the left block. But then they just don't have secondary things to run when other teams are taking Dickinson away. And if they do, it's like a different guy feels like, that he wants to take the shot. Juwan said after Saturday night's game, he's calling things. I'm paraphrasing it. He's calling things and the guys are running whatever they want. Juwan Howard didn't want Doug McDaniel running down the floor, a one-man fast break, 1-on-3, and throwing it up and hitting the underside of the glass. Yeah, I know he was trying to make a play, but it was very costly. And then what are you going to say again about not being able to make your free throws? Got to make them. We all know that. It doesn't matter what level of basketball we're talking about. Late in a game, in a one-possession game, you have to make your free throws. I mean, let's start with the first things. Rebound and making free throws. Well, Doug McDaniel got ripped late in the game in a one-possession game. McDaniel making a wild shot as the point guard late in a one-possession game, a one-point game. Those are the kind of things that can happen. So you hope that they learn from it. Maybe they can use it this year. They're out of time to be looking back and saying, hey, this will be the turnaround where we learn something. But maybe if they make a run in the tournament, they say, well, we just finally put it all together of all these things. We were watching the tape. We were just, hopefully that is the case. Not expected, but that's just how it feels. I'll take a couple more here on the feedback. Here's CJ. He thinks the roster is a problem. They don't have enough actual guards. College basketball is dominated by guard play, and it hurts on the defensive matchups. Well, sure. I don't think they have enough guards, and, the threes that they have, I don't know. Jace Howard seems like a real nice kid, but what kind of minutes are you counting on from him? You didn't have a TW2. Cheddar got the first start, and, there's maybe some things down the line from him. Isaiah Barnes was highly recruited. He hasn't worked out. Hasn't been able to contribute. So it's sure. It's the guards. It's the forwards. No, Hunter's legit. Jet's legit. Buffkin's had a nice season. Those are three solid players. McDaniel and Terrace Reed, they're guys kind of, they're true freshmen. You kind of expect some up and downs from them, but they don't have a starting five. When TW2 was in there, we'll just say it. He's been too inconsistent. And we can say the same thing about Joey Buckets, Joey Baker. Too inconsistent. Doesn't provide enough. I mean, Joey Baker had a goose egg tonight. Took a wild shot. Maybe he hurt his ankle on that one when he went in there, but there'll be a couple games where he gets in double figures, 14. You say, wow, that's just what the doctor ordered. Points off the bench, stroking it from downtown. Then a goose egg. That's it. There's really nobody else they can go to. Not a whole lot there. All right. Talking about when Llewellyn, it's going to be a long year. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe he would have, he certainly would have given him another body. But it wasn't like they were off and running when he was with them either. So, we'll see if Saturday night we'll be on after the Michigan State game. I'll talk with you at 1 o'clock tomorrow on Good Afternoon Football and Basketball. To then, have a great night. Wisconsin wins it 64-59. Good night.